the big news that will become official this afternoon at about 11 o'clock or so. Dusty Baker will officially retire as manager of the Houston Astros. A report yesterday, courtesy of Bob Nightingale of the USA Today. Dusty Baker, one of the most successful managers in baseball history, informed Houston owner Jim Crane in a private meeting Tuesday afternoon he's retiring as manager of the Astros. Said Baker to the USA Today, quote, "I'm very grateful and thankful to Jim Crane and the Houston Astros for giving me this opportunity and to win a championship. I felt like they've been good for me, and I've been good for them. What I really appreciate is that Jim has been totally honest and transparent with me on all things." So what happens next? If you were listening to yesterday's show, towards the end, we shared some new tidbits about the hiring process of the next Astros manager. Dana Brown, who was hired as GM just before spring training, will have a say in who's in the manager's chair, but owner Jim Crane and Jeff Bagwell, the team's senior advisor to ownership and baseball operations, will oversee finding the next Astros skipper. That write-up courtesy of Brian McTaggart. And that last part is where we find ourselves in a very tricky situation. Tricky's a weird word here. We don't know what's next. We don't. But ask yourself this question, because it does, just based off of everything we know about the Astros the last couple of years, where there was some back and forth, some pushback that came courtesy of Dusty Baker for that Astros front office. Answer this question. Does consolidating power usually work out for everyone? Because with whoever replaces Dusty Baker, doesn't matter who it is, there will be consolidated power with the Houston Astros. It is going to be Jim Crane. It is going to be Jeff Bagwell. It is going to be Reggie Jackson. And it is also going to be Dana Brown. But Brown's input, you got to wonder just how much he's going to have when you read that little tidbit from Brian McTaggart that says, yeah, he'll have a say, but Sean Mapes behind the glass, it's also saying that this is really up to Jim Crane and Jeff Bagwell. And I want people to pause for a moment. I'm not saying this is bad. I'm not saying this is good. I'm just saying that power is consolidating, and I'm of the belief that consolidating power rarely works out except for the people who have that power. In sports, in politics, that's just generally how it goes. I like what Jim Crane's done for this organization. I feel like, at the very least for Jeff Bagwell, there were some nice things that happened towards the end of the year. Michael Brantley finally playing. Jose Abreu really delivering in the playoffs. That made some of his decisions for this past season look a little bit better. I'm just saying the power is consolidating officially with Dusty Baker on his own accord leaving the organization.
I do just enjoy the, like, don't worry, guys. Dana Brown will have a voice in the room. It's like, wait, doesn't he need the GM? Like, shouldn't Jeff Bagwell have the voice in the room? But it's ultimately Dana Brown's. It's like, nah, well, you know.
Yeah.
Not even, like, about the power consolidating thing. It's just, like, how often in sports does, like, hey, the owner's going to get more involved in the day-to-day baseball, football, basketball operations, and you're like, sick, love it.
You don't generally love it. And look, this doesn't just apply to ownership as well. What did we see with the Texans a couple of years ago? All of a sudden, Bill O'Brien had all the power. And, yeah.
At least sometimes, like, at least sometimes it's like, yeah, Bill Belichick has all the power. Like, there's sometimes where, like, you're empowering, like, Dana Brown having more to me, Dana Brown having more power would be more preferable than Jim Crane and Jeff Bagwell.
I agree. And I also don't know what Dana Brown does. And I'm not trying to make people panic here. I'm just saying this is the official moment where power is consolidating. And I have a hard time buying that the Astros are going to bring in a manager that wants to get into battles with the front office if they were annoyed by the battles that they had with Dusty Baker, which it seems like was the case, at the very least, for Dana Brown. I don't know if it was for Jim. I don't know if it was for Jeff. But Dana Brown was publicly calling out Dusty Baker from time to time on the radio. In a polite way. Sure. And look, they're all going to be holding hands and kumbayaing at this press conference today. It's going to be Jim Crane. It's going to be Dusty Baker. It's going to be Dana Brown. Everything's going to be fine until Chandler Rome rolls a grenade into the room and asks a Big J question. Everything's going to be fine up to then. I don't know what happens next. What a on-the-fence take by Paul Gallant. But we are officially entering new territory. This is not Dusty Baker taking over for AJ Hinch and just keeping the ship on the same track that it was with Hinch, with Luno. This is different. And that's what Click was brought in to do. And by the way, Click wasn't even doing it to the liking of Jim Crane. And there are some moves that James Click made, which you could say, yeah, they weren't bad. Doesn't mean he was great. But we're in uncharted territory now. It officially begins today at 11 o'clock. 713-780-3776 to call in, to text in as well. You can join on Twitch, twitch.tv/ESPN 97.5. Got a new Twitch banner. Not a fan of the logo. Just going to say it right out of the chute. What? There's a lot of blank space.
Pleasing you, dude.
There's a lot of blank space in the top right. A lot of blank space.
Okay.
Well, we were the last show to get it. I figured it was going to be something like really like swanky and new, but whatever. Hey, you take what you can get, huh?
Yeah.
You take
Paul. Your options are limited.
They're running out.
Everywhere in your life.
Everywhere. Yeah, my mouse not working too. So options running out. Now I got to use my hands. Hey, I want to touch on something else that Dusty Baker said in this article with Bob Nightingale, and it's interesting because there does feel like there was an implied pushing of Dusty Baker towards retirement. It does feel like that. And I'm going to read the quote because it's something that Dusty said. Here is the manager of the Houston Astros talking about what he wants to do next. He wants to remain involved in baseball in an advisory position with the team, either the Astros or a team closer to his Sacramento, California home. Yet, after managing for 26 seasons, he is done, leaving the Astros on his own terms. I think he wanted everyone to know that he's doing it on his own terms, and that might be what the press conference is for. But sometimes things aren't quite that easy. Here's what Dusty Baker said about what's next. Quote, "I've still got a lot to offer. Baseball has been my life. I have a lifetime of knowledge, much more than those who have never played the game." Now that part's interesting because the exact people that you would think would get worked up about a quote like that, they sure as hell got worked up. Did you see how annoyed some of those folks were online? And maybe you don't live online. Maybe like me, you have a life and don't get mad about the lineup on a day-to-day basis. I just don't have the energy to do it, especially when the team's winning. But the exact people that you would expect to get mad at this quote got mad at this quote. It's the dorks online who love their numbies. All saying the same thing. Oh, Dusty's salty on the way out. Well, you're being salty about Dusty basically saying that he knows more about baseball than you. And here's the thing. He does. Just because there is a bit of resistance to fully embracing the analytical part of baseball doesn't mean he's wrong. And the people that get upset with those who won't fully embrace the science shoot themselves in the foot, because they do it in such a, to be frank, condescending and outright douchey manner that why would you want to embrace numbers and analytics when that's how they act? Don't you sometimes wonder how certain people maybe got elected despite being, I don't know, completely outside the box? Do you think it had anything to do with those who were condescendingly telling others, you need to do this, and if you don't, you're a dumb, stupid idiot? That's why there's a resistance to embrace of analytics. It's because people that don't have a social life, probably, that aren't very good at having conversations with others, it's because they try to actually introduce good ideas, but they do it in such a douchey, condescending, talking down to you way that, of course, by nature, the most humans, even if they agree with you, are going to say, yeah, but F you. And I'm kind of happy that Dusty Baker said that on the way out, because he is right. He does know more about baseball than a lot of these dorks who are online, who are looking at the advanced numbers and trying to create their own lineups on a daily basis, assuming that if they had their druthers and did the lineup every single day, that things would have been better. And that's why, even though I agreed sometimes with some of the pushback against Dusty Baker's lineups and decisions, it's why I generally decided, you know what, it'll be fun to side with Dusty Baker and Martin Maldonado just to anger these people. Is that petty? Yes. Is it counterproductive? Yes. But it's something that lends itself when the people that are trying to push this into a game, force it into a game, do it in such a douchey manner. So I saw people that were like dumping on Dusty for saying that in that article. I have no issue with him saying that. That's the most he will push back against some of the people online who are acting like he was stupid, because the lineup that he had that was underachieving at times so much, and also without Jose Altuve, and also without Yordan Alvarez, with starting pitchers who were also underachieving, because the lineup wasn't working out the way that they thought it should based off of the numbers and the metrics, etc. Anyway, Dusty gets to go out on his own terms today. You have thoughts on what's next for the Astros? 713-780-3776 to call in, to text in. Is consolidating power ever good for a sports organization? And is it really all about like Dusty's pushback against numbers? Is that why some people are happy that he is out as of 11 o'clock today?